On August 16, 1960, U.S. Air Force Captain Joseph Kittinger prepared for one of the most daring experiments in human history. Standing inside a remote airbase in New Mexico, he was about to ascend to the edge of space, testing whether a pilot could survive a high-altitude bailout. His mission was critical. If successful, it would pave the way for future astronauts to escape their spacecraft in an emergency. That morning, Kittinger suited up in his pressurized flight suit, the only protection he had against the near-vacuum conditions he would soon enter. The atmosphere at such extreme heights was hostile, with temperatures dropping to negative 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Any failure in his equipment could be fatal. A massive helium balloon, nearly 200 feet tall, was carefully inflated. This fragile structure would carry Kittinger skyward in a gondola, a small capsule with no parachute. If something went wrong during the ascent, he had no means of escape. At precisely 7 a.m., the balloon lifted off, carrying him higher and higher into the stratosphere. The Earth below slowly began to curve, revealing a breathtaking view that only astronauts would later experience. The air thinned until the deep blue of the sky faded into pitch black. After an hour, Kittinger reached his target altitude, 102,800 feet above sea level. He had climbed higher than any human before him, without an aircraft. As he stared out over the edge of his gondola, he knew there was only one thing left to do. He had to jump. Before stepping out, he activated a small stabilizing parachute designed to prevent him from spinning uncontrollably. No one knew what would happen when he entered free fall. Would he lose consciousness? Would the lack of atmospheric resistance cause his body to react in unpredictable ways? There was no precedent for what he was about to do. With no hesitation, Kittinger stepped forward and dropped into the abyss. Instantly, he began to plummet. There was no air resistance at this altitude, so he fell in complete silence. The absence of sound was eerie, and for a moment, it felt as though he were floating rather than falling. Within seconds, his body accelerated to 614 miles per hour, making him the first person to break the sound barrier without an aircraft. Midway through his descent, disaster struck. His right glove had failed, creating a pressure imbalance that caused his hand to swell to twice its normal size. The pain was excruciating, but he had no choice except to endure it. If he lost control, the consequences could be fatal. Thankfully, his stabilizing parachute worked as intended, preventing him from tumbling at dangerous speeds. If it had failed, he would have spun uncontrollably, causing blood to pool in his brain and rendering him unconscious before he ever reached the ground. After 4 minutes and 36 seconds of free fall, Kittinger's main parachute deployed at 18,000 feet, slowing his descent. Moments later, he landed safely in the New Mexico desert. His body was intact, though his swollen hand throbbed in pain. He had survived what many believed was impossible. His jump broke multiple world records and directly contributed to the future of space exploration. NASA studied his data and applied it to astronaut emergency protocols, ensuring that astronauts had a way to return safely to Earth if an escape became necessary. More than 50 years later, Austrian skydiver Felix Baumgartner made his historic Red Bull Stratos jump, breaking Kittinger's altitude record. But Kittinger himself was present for the mission, serving as Baumgartner's mentor and guide. Beyond his incredible feats in aviation, Kittinger continued serving in the Air Force, fighting in the Vietnam War, where he was later captured and held as a prisoner of war. His resilience never wavered, and his contributions to aviation remained invaluable until his passing in 2022 at the age of 94. His legacy proves that sometimes, in order to push human limits, one must be willing to fall. Subscribe for more.